So now we proceed with the part 3 of the basic concept of strategic management. So here we're going to discuss the basic model of strategic management. We have the environmental scanning, strategy formulation, strategy implementation, evaluation, and control. So these four elements expand expands each of these elements and serves as a model. This model is both rational and perspective. It is a planning model that presents what a corporation should do in terms of strategic management process, not what any particular firm may actually do. But for this, from the book they have used, they describe this as a rational planning model predicts that as environment uncertainty increases, corporations that work more diligently to analyze and predict more accurately the changing situation in which they operate will outperform those who do not, of course. So, the first is environmental scanning. Environmental scanning is the monitoring, evaluating, and disseminating of information from the external and internal environments to key people within the corporation. Its purpose is to identify strategic factors, those external and internal elements that will determine the future of the corporation. And of course, the simplest way to conduct environmental scanning is through SWOT analysis. I believe you have already heard and somehow familiar with the word SWOT analysis. SWOT is an acronym used to describe the particular strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that are strategic factors for a specific company. So different companies have different strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats depending on what industry they are in. Now the external and the internal environment. The external environment consists of variables. These are your opportunities and threats that are outside the organization and not typically within the short-run control of top management. So typically, external environment is something that the organization cannot just control. Next is the internal environment, your strengths and weaknesses. These are consist of variables that are within the organization itself and are not usually within the short run. So these variables from the context within which the corporation exists, they may be general forces and trends within the natural or societal environments or specific factors that operates within an organization's specific task environment. So specific task environment, this is often called industry. It's like the entertainment industry. They have a task environment within the entertainment industry, or the food industry. So they have also a specific task environment within the food industry. Or if you are in the manufacturing industry, or what else? If you are in the retail industry and the like. So you have your own task environment. The internal environment of a corporation consists of variables that are within the organizations itself and are not usually within the short run, like I said a while ago. So for the next slide, I'm going to show you a figure of an example of a task environment. So the environmental variables of the organization. As you can see, there are the natural physical environment. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4. So the natural physical environment, of course, the physical resources, the climate, the wildlife. These are something that we cannot change. We cannot change and control. We cannot control the climate or the wildlife or the physical resources that nature is giving us. Next is the societal environment. So the socio-cultural forces, the economic forces, the technological forces, how technology evolves and changes rapidly. Political legal forces, how the leaders, the laws being implemented, and the likes. Next is the task environment. This is now the industry. So within the industry, there are stakeholders. So the stakeholders are the following: the shareholders, the suppliers, the employees and their respective labor unions, the competitors, of course, trade association, communities, creditors, the customers, special interest groups, and of course, the government. And then, of course, the internal environment of that particular business, the structure, the culture, and the resources. So these are the things that an environment should know when they are doing, or they have to take notice when they are doing environmental scanning. They have to take notice the external and the internal environment. So what are the things they have to really know? So before they make decision on strategy formulation, they have to consider the internal and external environment. So now when they make strategy formulation, so strategy formulation is the development of a long-range plans for the effective management of environmental opportunities and threats in light of corporate strengths and weaknesses. It includes defining the corporate mission, specifying achievable objectives, developing strategies, and setting policy guidelines. So please take note that development of long-range plans for the effective management of environmental opportunities and threats. These are those things that you cannot control and change in light of your corporate strengths and weaknesses. And when you have already understand your internal and external environment, you have to make your strategies. And when you formulate your strategy also, you have also to define your mission, your specifying achievable objectives. You cannot just make an objective and it is impossible to achieve. And then, of course, developing strategies and setting policy guidelines in order for you to achieve what you want to achieve for your business. So to continue with strategy formulation and its first part, the mission. So, mission is the purpose or reason for the organization's existence. It tells what the company is providing to society, either in the form of product or service. A well-conceived mission statement defines the fundamental, unique purpose that sets a company apart from other firms of its type and identifies the scope or domain of the company's operation in terms of product or services they offered and the markets they serve. So, you are so familiar with our new mission statement in the university, right? And probably you have heard or you have read some other mission statement of the local university in our province. Our mission sets us apart from the mission of the other universities or colleges that we have in the province. But yes, the aim is still provide education, but we have something unique in our university that sets us apart from the other university offering also education to tertiary education. So a mission statement may also include the firm's values and philosophy about how it does business and treats its employees. It puts into words not only what the company is now, but what it wants to become in the future. Management strategic vision of the firm's future. So this is the mission. The mission statement promotes a sense of shared expectation in employees and communicates a public image to important stakeholder group in the company task environment. So we are in the academe, in the education industry. You are one of the stakeholders of the university. So if you have read the mission, somehow within the mission of our university, you know what the university is promoting to its stakeholders, right? So that is how it goes, and how you understand, and how it also what are your expectation of our university on the products and services it offers. So there are two types of mission, the broad and the narrow mission. So a broad mission, a broadly defined mission statement, such as the example below, keeps the company from restricting itself to the field of product line, but it also fails to clearly identify what it makes or which product market it plans to emphasize. So from the term itself, broad, it means they somehow, the scope is big, it's not specific. But the positive side about this broad mission statement is that it does not limit the company on what type of product or services it may serve in the future. That's why it's broad. So, like this sample mission statement, serves the best interest of shareholders, customers, and employees. See, it's really, really broad. You really don't know what does it serve, or something like that. And then a narrow mission very clearly states the organization's primary business, but it may limit the scope of the firm's activities in terms of the product or service offered, the technology used maybe, and the market served. So this is an example, a Google mission. This is way back when the book was published, way back 20, I'm not so familiar with the date, 2012, 2013. So maybe Google has already changed their mission statement. So to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So I believe it is still true until now, because we can see a lot of free stuffs in Google, like Google Classroom that we're using right now, or the Google search engine. They where we can Google our assignments and other things that we want to know about. So I think this is make it universally accessible and useful. I think it is still true until now, accessible and useful. So the next, that is on mission. So the next will be the objective. So what is an objective? You're familiar with an objective should be SMART, right? SMART, specific, M, measurable, A, attainable, R, realistic, T, what is T? Time bound. So objectives are the end result of planned activity. They should be stated as an action verb and tell what is to be accomplished by, when, and quantified if possible. Quantified, measurable, accomplished, time-bound. The achievement of a corporate objective should result in a fulfillment of a corporate's mission. In effect, this is what society gives back to the corporation when the corporation does a good job of fulfilling its mission. So, you have the mission, and then you have your objective. So, to increase sales by 40 to 6% each year. So, specific, to increase the sales. And measurable, 4 to 6%. Attainable, yes. Dependent upon your company. Let's just say you are working on that, so it is attainable. Realistic. Realistic, because you don't set an increase of sales of 100%. You just put small incremental amount. But it should be done each year. And of course, time bound. Each year, you have 1 year to achieve this objective. So a good objective should be action-oriented and often begins with the word to. So, and probably a goal. You might wonder what is the difference between a goal and an objective. Objective is result or planned activity. However, a goal is an open-ended statement of what wants to accomplish, with no quantification of what is to be achieved and no time criteria for completion. So that is a goal. So my goal is to For instance, to do diet, but yes, specific to do diet. Measurable, you did not put any terms of measure in terms of year or maybe weight or how much pounds you're going to lose. What else? Attainable, yes, it can be attainable, but how? Realistic, yes, it can be realistic, but it is not time bound. So technically, a goal is an open-ended statement. But if you're talking about objective, it is something that should be stated as an action verb, and of course, SMART. As the abbreviation SMART. So that is an objective. So, I missed something. I hope it's still part of this slides. So the next is, I forgot to mention the vision. So the vision is what describes what the organization would like to become in the future. The mission is how you're going to achieve that vision. And after the mission, you have your objectives. So, the next slide will tackle about, it is still under strategy formulation. Areas in which a corporation might establish its goals and objectives. So, where you can establish more on, yes, you can put goals, but it is better to put objectives on it because objectives are more action-oriented and something that is measurable, attainable, time-bound, and the likes. So in terms of profitability, like the example a while ago, increase in sales, probably you can also use increase in profit. Efficiency in terms of lowering the cost, among others. So you can also do that. Growth in sales, asset, among others. Shareholders' wealth. So this is, you can put an objective on the stock appreciation as long as it is, of course, attainable, measurable, and the likes. Utilization of resources. Resources are very scarce. How are you going to utilize it and then still maximize the profit? You have to put an objective on it and something that is really achievable and something that the company can really achieve in a span of time. And then, of course, contribution to employees. Perhaps their salaries. Perhaps accepting diversified employees and workforce. And we can also put objectives on society or the taxes that you're paying, or perhaps charities and corporate social responsibility that you're going to tackle in the community you are conducting business with. You can put an objective on that. And of course, market leadership, your market share. If probably this year your market share because of the pandemic, it goes down to, let's just say, only 10%, and your goal is to increase your market share, so you probably want your objective to be increase the market share from 2021 onwards by 2% every year or per quarter. Probably it's up to you that what you think that can be achieved by the company. Next is technological leadership, probably your innovations and creativity. So what are you going to do in order to have a technological leadership? And if you're going to apply technological leadership in your institution, you have to make sure that you have the capacity to do it, the finance, the researchers or the scientists or even the technology itself. And of course, survival, avoiding bankruptcy. What are the mitigating ways and risk reduction that the company is doing to avoid bankruptcy? As you can probably, because of this pandemic, there are actually various businesses who have closed their shops and establishment because there are no customers anymore. Maybe their specific market before are, let's just say, students. And what happened now? There are less students going to schools because of this pandemic. Or in tourism industry, probably resorts and restaurants and hotels. This is a fact. There are private universities and schools that have closed because of this pandemic. They cannot cope up with the utilities expenses anymore. So, yeah, some companies, those who survive, have probably strategies in order to avoid this bankruptcy and, in the long run, closure of the organization. And then personal needs of top management, like using firms' personal purposes, such as providing jobs for relatives. So, um, this is, I don't know if this is nepotism, but hopefully it's not, because when you are talking about nepotism, you're, I think, putting someone on a specific job, your relative, even if that person is not fit for the job or not qualified to do the job. But for this, this is more on referral, providing jobs for your relatives. When you're talking about referrals, you do not, you refer someone, your relative, who are, of course, really fit for the job. Okay, so I believe this is the last part of part 3, and part 4 will be continued. Have a good day and stay safe.